Good evening, everyone. Welcome to First Church of Religious Science here in New York City. Welcome to our Thursday evening self-healing class. I want to say hello again to all of you signing in on Zoom, or those of you who are listening at a later time. We're grateful to have you with us in our community. This is a special gathering. It's a sacred space where we come together to grow, to heal, to explore the infinite possibilities that are within each of us. We're honored to have you with us. Glad that you've chosen to be with us this evening. Before we get into this evening's lesson, I want to welcome you again. If you're new, first of all, you're in the right place at the right time. So welcome to our gathering. Welcome to our center. We come together 3 times a week. Sunday mornings at 10:45, we have our meditation followed by our Sunday lesson. It's our celebration for the week. It's a time for deeper reflection, affirmative prayer, and an insight into the divine wisdom that lives within you, within all of us. Every Wednesday, Jimmy hosts and facilitates the gathering at 7 o'clock. And these are all the same Zoom links, by the way. So save the Zoom link for today because it operates for all of our gatherings. So Wednesday, Jimmy runs a creative living series, which is a discussion gathering class on different subjects. This is a great midweek spiritual connection. It's a time to recharge and refocus. And then here we are every Thursday for our self-healing class based upon the book You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Louise Hay was our most famous student. She studied with us. She took courses from Raymond Charles Barker. She's the reason I got into this teaching and this ministry. And so we're really thrilled to have our connection with her at First Church. This was also the church of Raymond Charles Barker, who many of you know and fond of as an author. The book, The Power of Decision. I think, he has several books, but that's the one most of you know. We don't charge for any of our webinars, any of our gatherings. We do have support options in the chat room. On the Zoom call, you'll see that there's options there, also on the social media platforms. So while there's no charge at all for anything we do, we're really grateful for those of you who do support what we do. It allows us to do our work and to reach people all over the world at this point. So I want to start this evening with a poem that I believe aligns well with the message, the theme that we're exploring this evening. The poem is entitled The Garden of You. So it ties into our theme tonight is self-acceptance and divine timing. So here we go with the Garden of You. In the garden of your soul, seeds of possibility are sown, gently watered with your care, nurtured by the love you share. The storms may come and the winds may blow, but trust that all of it is meant for you to grow. In the silence, stillness, there you'll find the seeds of greatness left behind. So let go of what no longer works, no longer serves you. Release the past, embrace new things, new curves, for in divine timing, all will bloom. A garden rich with joy, no room for gloom. The soil of your heart, fertile and wild, awaits the miracle that's deep inside. You, yes, you are the gardener of your own life. You hold the power to end all strife. And with each thought, each step you take, new paths will open and choices to make. Trust in the process, trust in the way, for you are the light that always leads the way. So I chose that particular poem because it's a reminder that just like a garden, our lives are constantly evolving. They're never the same. I've learned that through all my studies. Ancient Greek philosophers, you can't stand in the same river twice. You never can be in the same place. You're always more, you're never less. So sometimes we might think in our day-to-day living that we're stuck, but in truth, transformation is always going on. There's always, you're a spiritual being and you're always growing and evolving. Sometimes you don't realize it, but you are. The transformation is always happening beneath the surface. Life is unfolding. And your life is being reflected. Your consciousness is being reflected all the time. Now, we call this the law of mind in our teaching. We also call it the law of cause and effect. Some of you may know it as the law of attraction. Others have called it the law of correspondence. But it's the very same idea. Whatever is living inside of you in terms of what you understand, in terms of what you're saying to yourself and thinking all day long, gets reflected in your world. So it's important to realize that, you're powerful. Life is reflecting what you think and what you believe. And if you don't like what's in your life, then we come back to the drawing board, which is consciousness, and we change our thinking, and then we will change our life. We change our consciousness, and then you will see that you'll demonstrate a different reality. The great news is, and to realize is, when I was younger, I'd be praying to a God above that sometimes would answer, sometimes would not. And I would try to become better. And what we learn here in this teaching is you don't have to become better. You're already magnificent. You're already whole. You're already complete. You are the whole bit. You have everything you could ever possibly need. You have power at your disposal that's magnificent. You have infinite intelligence operating in you and through you, and life is responding to you all the time. There's an unfolding process. And, Louise Hay would say, I love the world the way it is. There's nothing I need to change. And she really had such a beautiful understanding of life. She knew that though she wasn't perfect, that, her understanding, her consciousness was unfolding perfectly. And she would say, I love the world the way it is, because she would know that everything's in divine order and it's unfolding in divine order. So this thing that we have inside of us is inside of everyone, everywhere. And then, if you have that spiritual understanding, that metaphysical understanding, you can know that you are one with the one and that you're living in it, you're moving in it, it's responding to you all the time. So that's the theme of today's lesson, so we can trust this process more, knowing that life is responding to us and that there is this divinity, this divine unfolding. So there's this energy of change, and there is divine timing that we oftentimes don't see, we don't understand, we don't like. And this energy is always, always at work within us. So we're talking about that today. We're exploring it a little bit. So let's take a moment to breathe deeply, to center ourselves and reflect on this beautiful potential and activity that lies within each of us. Louise was always suggesting, again, she would say, I trust in the process of life, and she was suggesting that we do that also, and that we learn to bring ourselves to a place where we know that we live in it, we move in it, we live in the substance, we move in this substance, and to understand that it's responding to us. Ernest Holmes said the same thing, our founder, who said, there is power for good in the universe greater than you, of which we are a part, and we can use that power. So that's what Louise was talking about, trusting in that power, trusting in that journey, trusting in the process of life. So our lesson today reminds us that no matter what's happening, and I know a lot of things are happening, no matter what's happening in the world, we know that everything is unfolding in divine order and that all is well. So all of us are on a spiritual journey. If you haven't heard it, I'm telling you, you are, and all is well. And it's a journey of divine timing. See, I can't speak for everyone, but I can feel this energy everywhere, especially this year, especially now, especially this month. And I've been talking about, all throughout the years, I've been talking about this, it's called the human knowledge doubling curve. And it used to be every 10 years, all of human knowledge was doubled. And then it was every so many months. And now I think it's every other day or something like that. It's really mind-boggling. And now we're dealing with artificial intelligence, and then we're in a whole different place where it's just beyond conception. Technology is advancing. It's just astounding. I want to say it's unbelievable, but it's absolutely true. So this is a time where there's going to be great discoveries in the world of a magnitude we've never had before. So it's really an exciting time to be alive. And some of you will argue, well, this technology's come at the perfect time because there's huge challenges for us to figure out. And that's true also. The thing is, we're living in a time of dynamic change. And of course, since we are religious science practitioners, since we are truth students, we are the ones that get to see how wonderful this is. We get to see the good in it. So this is what we do. We're here as the cheerleaders, the champions of life, and we know that life is unfolding in perfect order. So we don't get thrown off by the change. We know that whatever is outpicturing it's outpicturing for a greater good in the world. You know, you could do it the other way. Many people do. Many people fear everything that's different. Any kind of change, it scares them. And you could come from that place where ain't it awful and, you know, just lament the change. But life is unfolding for us. It's not unfolding to us. So we choose to take the positive approach that Louise spoke of, and we choose to see the good. And then as a result, we create a different reality for ourselves. So we're not like the people out there. We're not like the masses. We're here dedicated to seeing the good. So as metaphysical students, I know many of you are, you're beginning to understand as spiritual beings with knowledge that you're living in a spiritual reality, and you are an individualization of spirit yourself. And you come to understand that you're always going to be supplied and supported. You're always going to be, as you're communing with life, you're going to be informed. You're going to receive the right information at the right time. So I've been using this affirmation of Louise Hay's for many years, which is, I know I'm supplied and supported. And I'm really glad that we come together here every week, at least once or twice. Most of you get here. I'm glad we get to come together to remind ourselves how good life is, and to remind ourselves that we're supported. When I was putting my notes together for today, I thought, my goodness, it's a new year already. One of my people in the office said it's a new moon, and I'm not exactly sure what the significance of that is, but I was told it was good, so I trust that they're right. I know one thing from our teaching: whenever things don't seem like they're working out in our lives, it means that there's a new pathway opening up for us, because spirit is always unfolding for us, and spirit is always at work, bringing forth greater good and replacing lesser with greater. There was a minister friend of mine years ago. She was always saying, life gives clues. And I've thought about that statement for at least 20 years. She's absolutely right. The universe is always attempting to get our attention. Those of us who meditate or commune a little bit, take our time outs, take our pauses, we get so much information. Now, we don't always act on it. I used to ask myself a question, well, what's the most self-loving thing I can do in just about any situation? And the answer is always there. It's whether you're going to have the courage to act on the information. Spirit is always there. Another minister calls it our IOS, our internal operating system or guidance system. It's there. It will inform you. If you ask the questions, you're going to know what to do, what action to take. Dr. Bill used to say to his students, you know, and you know that you know. So what we learn to do in this teaching is to put a demand on consciousness, because you have access to this great intelligence in you, operating through you. We learn to live the affirmative life. We learn to take, as Louise Hay would talk about, the positive approach here. So if we're attempting to come from that place of knowing we're supplied and supported, and live the affirmative life, and be committed to seeing the God and the good, and we commune with this, You're going to get all kinds of messages and clues as in terms of the choices you're making. Louise would say, deep at the center of my being is this infinite something, this well of love and intelligence, and it's certainly there within me, within you, within all of us. Now, you might have been struggling during the past year. Many people have. We all have our moments. You might have been struggling trying to change something in your life or someone, only to feel like nothing would budge, no matter how hard you tried. A concept I was taught years ago, and one that stayed with me, is this transformation that we're looking for is an inside job. See, it's really not about fixing people, places, and things ever. It's always going to be about you and you. In recovery circles, they would say recovery is an inside job. And here's the thing, there's always going to be actions that we must take. But the real work always happens in consciousness. The work that we do in mind, our thought processes, is really the work. And that's the stuff that makes the big difference. Now, some people don't think that we take any action, but that's not true. Of course, we take action, but it's inspired action. It's not reaction. It's action that comes after contemplating and asking questions of spirit, like what's the most self-loving thing I can do, or what's the best thing to do? And you'll always get the answer. If you look closely, the word inspired, just break it down, it says in spirit. Our best actions come after we commune with spirit, after we meditate a bit, and we receive its guidance. My dad used to say to us when we were kids, spirit won't be the uninvited guest. So I always got from that is to take that pause, take that moment, and invite it in and ask those questions, because you'll always get the answers. Let it guide you. Invite it into your awareness. One of my favorite authors from the 90s was Stuart Wilde, who wrote, "Life was not meant to be a struggle," which is so consistent with the teachings of Ernest Holmes, Louise Hay's mentor. Ernest Holmes wrote in The Science of Mind that suffering is not God ordained. It's not the will of the universe that you or anyone suffers. You're not here to suffer. You might experience pain or loss from time to time. After all, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and we develop attachments as we grow. As we grow spiritually, you'll find that you have less of them. We really come to understand that we are whole, we're complete, we're individualizations of source ourselves. We are the whole bit. And you'll have less attachments. You'll find that you don't need people, places, and things to be a certain way. You're going to know that you're the whole bit, you're supplied and supported, you're complete. Attachments, of course, can bring you a great deal of pain. So this lesson is about learning to trust the process of life, even when things don't appear to be going your own way. We understand in this teaching, things are unfolding in divine order. And for us to realize more that we're supplied and supported, knowing that the right things will show up at the right time. Now, sometimes things don't work out the way we want them to. As I look back in my life, that winds up to be a very, very good thing. Looking back at our life and how things changed, we can usually get it better as you look backward. You think, oh my goodness, everything has happened in divine order. You can see it. In New Thought, we learn to approach life positively. Louise would say, take the positive approach. You'll hear me talk about taking the affirmative approach. You'll hear me talk about learning to live with positive expectancy. So we talk about pausing, reflecting, meditating, and affirming, and knowing that all is well, knowing that you can trust the process of life. And as you do this, as this becomes part of your daily practice, you'll find that increasingly you're letting go of fear and worry. You're coming to know that everything's really a divine order. Now, I know many of us have tried to change our lives through what we'll call quick fixes. I've done that before in my life where you might be looking for something outside of yourself or someone even to make yourself feel better about yourself. Maybe you've tried getting a new boyfriend, a new girlfriend, or maybe buying something, new car, some shiny thing, thinking that it would bring you happiness. And we've all known whenever we've done any of those things, the happiness wasn't lasting. It might have helped for a short period of time, but it doesn't usually last. There was a slogan years ago that I remember from Snickers candy bars, and the slogan was, Snickers satisfies you, suggesting that this candy bar could bring you contentment. And it didn't. And so many of us have tried quick fixes in our lives. I can recall when I was younger, I was always running around. I was like a spiritual junkie. Wherever there was a new author or speaker or someone, guru, I'd be off on a bus or a plane or a train to hear the latest and greatest, whoever I thought might have all the answers. So I was always searching. I was on this endless search for authors and metaphysical anything, right? And yet, eventually you start to get the lesson, because all of them are going to tell you the same thing in the end, that everything you need, you already have within you. But I had to go out and search all those places. But that's the ultimate lesson. Maybe someone told me that at the time, that you have everything within. I'm sure they did, but I didn't hear it until I finally heard it. You might remember the story of the Wizard of Oz. That's the one that's most familiar. The main characters go through every type of trial and tribulation, searching always for something outside of themselves. They're looking for love, intelligence, courage. But in the end, all of them discover the same thing, that everything that they've been looking for was already deep at the center of their being. It's already within them. Louise Hay postulated that most of humanity, most people aren't very happy with themselves. They don't feel good enough. They don't feel like they do enough. They have this whole inner dialogue, an undercurrent, which is in a sense of not being adequate or being good enough. See, that's where you get into the whole family of origin stuff that we talk about, where we've been programmed. And no one's tried to hurt us, but, we've been programmed with things, programming about money, about what's acceptable, what's good, what's bad, and that happens usually in our early years. All this messaging, this internal messaging. And I bring this into discussions of just about every book I've ever read, from the Four Agreements, where all this stuff gets in the way. And what we try to do in religious science is we try to be living in new moments where you can clear all that debris out of the way, so you're not carrying all this stuff. Ernest Holmes would talk about, we carry all these ancient grievances, these old opinions, these old ideas, and we don't really live in new moments because we have all these prejudices, which is preconceived ideas about everything. So one thing we try to do here in this teaching is to be still, to know that we are centers of God activity, to be in new moments where we can release the past and everything we think we know about everything, so we can be in a new moment. We want to let go of all these internal messages. Every Thursday, you'll hear me ask, what's it been like being you this week? Because what I'm hoping for is as you become more mindful of what you're saying to yourself and all that, and you start to notice the critical thinking, you get to a point where you just release the critical thinking and you trade in the lesser ideas for the greater. So you begin giving yourself messages of self-acceptance and self-approval. And as you do that for yourself, usually what happens is then you're able to extend that to other people as well. Louise would say, never, never, never criticize yourself. And as you begin to become more self-loving, you internalize self-praise and release the need to be critical of yourself, then it's generally you'll start to find that you're okay with people in your world. She would say, I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. I'll always be the perfect me. And so those are the kinds of things we want to do. As We want to drop all the critical thinking and criticism, because these patterns live within us to varying degrees. I'm not talking about anyone in particular from our gathering, because many of you have been working on yourselves quite a bit. But this is what goes on. All these patterns suggest that, we're not happy with ourselves. So we begin where we are, and we love and accept and approve of ourselves right here, right now, knowing that there's always going to be more to do. We're all here to learn and grow, and I suspect we will be all the days of our lives. So these are the patterns we work on and we talk about. In recent talks, I've said it's like having an internal operating system that we need to be updating all the time, because this messaging impacts how we feel, impacts how we think, and how we live. And as these patterns that live within, as we interrupt them and change them, it's going to cause things to get better. So I know all of you have the ability, you have the power to live a great life. So most of us know that we want to get a handle on that inner dialogue. That's why every Thursday I ask, what's it been like being you? Because I'm wanting you to become more mindful. I know you can get a handle on these things. You can become the guardian at the gate in terms of what you think. So here's something important to understand when we're thinking negatively. If I'm going to let myself do this negative thing and I keep thinking negatively and get involved in that negative chatter, then I'm going to start experiencing, I'm going to have unpleasant feelings. It's as simple as that. There's an old slogan that many therapists are very familiar with, which is, feelings are not facts. So again, feelings aren't facts. So while it's important to acknowledge our feelings and process our emotions, we must remember these feelings and emotions are not the ultimate truth. So it's essential to allow ourselves to feel, to process, and to let our emotions move through us. Just try to remind yourself, though, that these are not necessarily factual. There's lots of ways of dealing with feelings. The first thing that comes to mind for me is acknowledge it, journal about it, talk to a trusted friend, take a pause, knowing that these feelings are apt to change as more is revealed to you. I'm sure many of you have other ways of dealing with feelings. The thing to realize is usually these feelings are not permanent. And most of all, realize they are not who we are. In the Science of Mind textbook, Ernest Holmes teaches us that affirmative prayer, affirmative treatment is a method of clearing out the negativity and replacing it with truth. And the truth will be ideas of beauty and wonder and perfection. Many of us in the teaching have gotten good at trading in painful ideas for greater ones. While we acknowledge painful situations and we process them, we don't linger there. We move forward. There comes a point where we develop self-acceptance, where we realize that everyone, including ourselves, has done and is doing the best they can with the understanding that they have at the time. As we embrace this truth, we are then able to extend love, first of all, to ourselves and then to others. This is at the heart of the work of religious science. We learn to pause, we learn to reflect, we learn to affirm and know that all is really well, all is well, and that we can, in fact, trust in the process of life. And as we do this, we let go of fear and worry, and we step forward, and we step into the fullness of who we really are. So together, for this class, let's affirm, I'm aligned with divine timing. I trust in the process of life. All is well, and I'm open to the good unfolding now. Ernest Holmes reminds us that there's power for good in the universe, and we can use it. So let's decide today, one and all, to use it wisely, with love and with trust. And so it is. So now I'd like to turn the cameras over to all of you and to have you comment on the subject if you'd like. This is your time to tune in. This is the time everybody looks forward to. And the subject is trusting the process, trusting the journey. even when it doesn't look like things are working out, knowing that all is well and knowing that everything is in divine order. So talk on this or anything else that has come up for you during this evening's gathering. Thank you.